they have to be like a she lion, woman strong, not depending on the man. Welcome to Take Good Care,
an endeavor of Peachtree City Obstetrics and Gynecology. Our aim and mission is to serve as a source of vital information and discussion for women of all ages,
races,
and walks in life.
I'm Dr. Miranda Williams.
I'm Dr. Deanna Guthrie. And I am Dr. Karen Green. Welcome to our show.
Today, you may notice that we have a few extra items on our set in the studio because we would like to welcome you all to Wakanda. We're doing a follow-up episode from the show we did a little while ago talking about Marvel movies and the new normal and how we're so excited about the Wakanda Forever feature, the next in the series for the Black Panther movies. That's due to be released on November the 11th, 2022. And you also may be aware that there's been a directive floating around on social media that for the opening weekend, we will be wearing white. So we decided that today we would also wear white for today's episode. So what we would like to do on this episode is to take a deeper look into the trailer itself, how much we enjoyed the trailer, and just to have a conversation about all things Marvel as it relates to this movie and what our thoughts and concepts may be around who is the next Black Panther. So we're going to take a second, and you guys will be looking with us as we view the trailer. And then once we view the trailer, we'll be right back with you.
No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. Hey, little darling, don't shed no tear. No woman, no cry. Good friends we have and good friends we've lost along the way. In this great future, you can't forget your past. So dry your tears, I say.
It doesn't matter how many times I watch this trailer. I get so hyped up for this movie.
Yes.
I cannot wait.
The hair
I
stand
wait.
on end every time.
Every time. And I think a lot of that has to do, Ryan Coogler's movies, the music is such a part of the storytelling as much as the acting. And the choice of this song for the trailer, No Woman, No Cry, has also, been discussed a little bit. I've heard people talking about, why did he pick that song? What does that mean? Does that have any indication, about who Black Panther is or what the storyline is going to be? And when I was trying to research a little bit about the song, of course, I've heard the song as we all have, but never really paid attention to it necessarily in any kind of detail. But it talked about, one of the articles about how there's a misconception in communities outside of Jamaica, not understanding the phrase "no woman, no cry," confusing it to say it means if you don't have a woman, you're not going to cry. But that's not what it means. Dr. Guthrie, can you help us out with that?
Well, there are two ways you can look at it. It's the dialect in Jamaica is called patois, and so it's kind of like a type of broken English that the slaves would speak as they're learning English, converting from African. So it's mixed with, it's English and broken English, and it's kind of like Ebonics here. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the way you say things, it's like you said, it's incorrect English, but it's the way. So for instance, like if somebody would walk up to me and say "no woman, no cry," it almost means like no woman is crying. That's, so there are different ways to kind of look at it. Mm-hmm. So,
and I did see in this one article that it also could mean woman, don't cry. Saying no woman, no cry, like woman, don't cry. So some of the people who've been looking at it have been trying to determine if this is a key to the storyline in terms of, because we see that they're having some type of funeral, for lack of a better term. We assume it's for T'Challa. And when everyone is wearing white and, his mother, his sister, all the women, you see these women crying. And so is it being used as a way to, comfort?
Mm-hmm. So it's like a double negative. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, don't cry, it's like no woman. It's like it's almost like a double negative. So it's kind of the opposite of what you think it's trying to say.
Mm-hmm. And when Rhonda, when you mentioned that the meaning was different, and I said, well, we sing along with it, but we don't really know what they're saying. So I said, well, hold on, let me actually look at the words. And if you actually look at what they're talking about, it's very interesting that, number one, they would use it for this particular movie because it really does talk more about the woman's strength, but yeah, listening to it for years, I thought it was talking about women crying. And the trailer does, in addition to showing the sad part of them crying, it shows a lot of female strength.
Right. I picked up on that part too, because you do see, and which has been a lot of the controversy about who's going to be the next Black Panther, in the trailer, the women being shown in such prominent and powerful positions, like Queen Ramonda. When she's speaking, and you could tell she's like letting them have it, right, about something.
Yes.
So
I've given everything.
Yes.
Do I have anything else to give?
Right.
And so since I've listened to the trailer several times, when I looked at it again last night, I thought, she would make a great Black Panther. Hey, Angela Bassett can play any role she wants to.
That she could. So what are your thoughts? What have y'all heard? I know we've been all trying to research and have thinking about who is the next Black Panther.
So
who do you want it to be?
I want it to be T'Challa.
I know.
I don't know.
I love Suri. Don't get me wrong. But I really am hoping that Killmonger will have some kind of
comeback. That's another controversy.
Resurrection or comeback, or they get him from the ancestral plane, or.
So I'd listen to. Well, of course, I'm the Marvel nerd.
Yeah, you're our Marvel nerd.
And so I will look things up. And so after I was watching the trailer and watching some of the things that talk about how, one guy goes through all the details and how it could be, could be Suri. But then this other guy talks about why it shouldn't be Suri because of her personality. Number one, she is as smart as Tony Stark and the Hulk, and so she's really more interested in the academic portion of it and the scientific portion of it and how she makes all the different things. So, when we see at the end of the last movie, which I can't believe it's been so long ago, she was put in charge of the research. And so that was her job. And so, her being a fighter would be something that she wouldn't do. They also talk a lot about how, and this in relationship to other Marvel movies, the ancestral plane, and how, being dead in a Marvel movie is not necessarily being dead. We saw that what's his name? Thor's brother. He died a lot. Kept coming back.
Loki.
Loki died. He came back. So the possibility of, Killmonger coming back is actually there, and he goes through the whole possibility of how he could do it. Killmonger had the purple juice that he drank, and so even when he fought T'Challa and was stabbed, he probably didn't really die. He slowly recovered, and so actually he got out of the water. He came back, and then they go into all of that.
Another thing they're linking it to is because the movie is about Namor and
Right,
the
with the-
seed that he asked to be buried at sea, so
Yes.
they're thinking that
could play
that
into
could play a
something.
part in it too. And they linked it to the trailer too because the last words of the lyrics is "When I wake up."
Yes.
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 And so they're like, what
Could
does
that
that
be a
mean?
Killmonger reference? Exactly.
It's,
So that's, yeah. So we'll see. But, I'm all for woman power. That's what we all stand for, is empowerment of women and women being able to do whatever they want to do, strong and powerful, being fighters, being warriors. We definitely have seen that, I think, portrayed even more so, not just in the Black Panther series, but other movies as well. So it will be interesting to see. We absolutely know that women will be portrayed in very powerful roles, and prominent roles in this movie as they were within the last movie. So it'll be interesting to see how they pull it together. There have been some people also talking about that last scene where you see whoever the new Black Panther is. And people have been looking at the details, that this one had gold accents, which is similar to what Killmonger's
Right.
Black Panther suit, but also they've been making connections with Shuri and the
fist.
those Black Panther fists that she was battling with Killmonger, and that on the hand, it looks like the hand is coming through the mouth of an open panther. And could that be a reference to those, fighting instruments she had in the first movie? So there are lots of possibilities.
There are lots of possibilities. I'm
Lots of
for them all.
possibilities.
I know.
I'm
So one
for 'em
they
all.
gave the list of 5 potentials, and it was Ramonda, Shuri, Dora Milaje.
Oh, the head
yes,
female warrior. I'm blanking
I'm
her
blanking
name.
out her name now. They've listed her as a possibility, Killmonger, and there were 5 of them, and I forgot. Oh, and Nakia. They were saying Nakia was
Oh,
a
that's true, yeah.
possibility
Lupita
too.
Nyong'o's
Because you
character.
see her only that one time.
Right.
In the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
then
you
in
see
the
her
middle.
because she has longer hair. She has the
Yes.
long dreads
In the trailer.
in the trailer.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
So.
Now, you all had mentioned that you had seen some YouTubes. Y'all just been getting caught up, and you heard some other discussions about
Well,
some other videos.
So this guy kind of just broke down the whole video from beginning to end. He talked about the lyrics and
What did he say about the lyrics? You
the
recall?
mashup between the artist who sings "No Women No Cry." This particular version, her name is Thames, and she's from Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and how they put it together with Kendrick Lamar's "All Right"
Mm-hmm.
song and put those two together, and how it was just so. It's kind of like the theme of survival.
Mhm.
They said. And I read somewhere he wrote the lyrics to "All Right" after visiting South Africa and seeing Mandela's cell.
Oh, wow.
And so, and then they've used that. They've been using that song with all the Black Lives Matter
Everything
protests and things like that. So that's kind of like one of the theme songs that they use with that. So he's kind of breaking that down. He went into the language, the Wakandan language, and everything, all the scenes now, there was writing on the walls and on columns and things like that. And so he
You're
was
trying to
breaking
break
that
that
all
down to see
apart.
what all
Right,
that means.
exactly.
Any
What-
clues? Did he have any?
Yeah, he was talking a lot about the ancestral plane with a lot of things because he was talking about how white is the mourning color for Wakanda versus black, and how all the tributes to T'Challa, and mentioning that he, in the ancestral plane, and then wondering if Shuri, that's where she's,
Missing because you
because there's one
for
part.
Queen Ramonda to say, "I've given everything, all my family."
Right,
has
exactly.
gone."
That's what he was saying. So
Right.
where is
Where
Shuri?
is
Where is Shuri in the ancestral plane? Where did she go? That sort of thing. What else did he talk about? He talked about. Hang on, let me get. So he talked about, but he was like the language is like. He talked about. Let's see. Oh, the reference to the gods. because the Namor, actually Namor is the first one of Marvel's first superheroes. He was actually
didn't
first
know
came
all
out
the
in
Marvel
1939,
history.
even before Aquaman. So he's the
Wow.
equivalent to Aquaman
Okay.
for
For
DC.
the DC Comics. Okay.
And how he's, Atlantis is the place, but they changed it in the movie to become an Aztec kind of civilization instead of Greek basis. And so he's actually one of the first superheroes that, and how he's the son of a god. He's like a mutant because he's half god, half human. And how they linked it with T'Challa drawing on the gods, and they mentioned the two feline gods. Bask is the one, and then there's Senket. And so he was looking at like one column where at the entrance to
I did see that, where
entrance to
on
the grave, the
processional-
cemetery, they had the
yes.
both of them there, and how he's making reference to that on the ancestral plane. Just and then talking about Namor again, how he's linked, like I said, with Killmonger in the water, and maybe they're the ones that play a part. And then Vibranium is like throughout this whole thing. So the origin of Namor's story back in 1939 was that Winston Churchill sent Ernest Shackleton, who was supposed to be he's the real explorer that went to Antarctica, to find vibranium.
Wow.
And this
So
this
it's
guy named
real.
Mackenzie, because Namor's name is
exists.
Namor Mackenzie. He was a Englishman that went with Ernest Shackleton, and so the Atlanteans sent Fen, which is Namor's mom, and other people to find out what they were doing, looking for
Wow.
vibranium,
Wow.
and they fell in love and she got pregnant and had a
Here we
baby.
come. Here's a baby.
And but they took her back to Atlantis for Namor to be born. So it's just this whole, but
That would
vibranium
explain
is
it on the trailer when they're showing winter. Because every time I see that trailer, I
Right.
wonder why they're looking at
it's-
winter.
yes.
That's Antarctica.
Yeah.
Because you see a ship and you see people flying over there.
Yes, and how in another movie way back when they made reference to the ship. It's called the Lacurian, something like that, ship. And that was a ship that supposedly went to find the vibranium.
Aha.
They
Y'all,
linked a
vibranium
picture.
is real. It's real. I'm now convinced. You have now convinced me.
It's somewhere.
It is somewhere.
And then in another clip in the trailer where they're looking at Namor, he's wearing this necklace that looks like beads. They look like pearls, but it looks like the bracelet that they use to control everything. And they're wondering, is that vibranium? So it's just this.
Wow.
I mean, everything in Marvel is just interconnected. You
Yes,
can't,
yes.
So it's the way
That's going to be so good.
it is.
And I think this movie, I think that I just saw, it's supposed to be like over 2 hours.
2 hours. Yes, they
long.
said it's the longest one. It's longer
it's
than
longer
Endgame.
than Endgame.
Yes.
We sat for
Wow.
Endgame. We'll be there.
Well, it didn't even feel like it was over 2 hours.
it didn't.
You know.
It didn't. It didn't.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Wow.
I love the little Easter eggs. I love those
Yes.
type of things
Yes.
because then when you're looking at the movie, you're kind of like, oh wow.
That did mean that.
And
Yeah.
then you watch it again
Right.
because you've missed something.
Right. And
know?
you keep picking up little things all throughout it. This is going to be great.
And the other reason you don't want people to talk while you're watching the movie.
Because you can go back 3 or 4
Please.
times and you're going to find something new every
Yes.
single time.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then what I love too is that the introduction of new sister, Ironheart,
Well, which one is that one now?
and that's who Suri
Oh, that's
smacks
what that
hands
is.
with. So
Oh,
she's
see,
like
I
Tony
didn't know who
Stark. She has a suit like Iron Man, like Tony Stark.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
so
Okay.
she's gonna be in this too.
Okay.
So
Now,
there's
is this part of like Phase 5 Marvel or something? Is this another
I think
character?
I can't remember if she was in Phase 5 or not, or the upcoming phases. But she's a new character. Her name is Ironheart.
It's just too much to keep up with.
Well, and
So she's like she has a suit like Tony Stark that she built and stuff like that.
And they
So-
do talk about in Killmonger, the possibility that one of the reasons he was brought back was kind of to be the anti-hero, to retake, to go back and take over. And he was brought back by Namor because he was found in the water, and that's how they resurrected him. And he's going to be part of the new crew of, the Marvel superheroes. So.
Well, a lot to be discovered. I cannot wait. I
Yes.
cannot wait. And I'm going to have to see it opening weekend because people don't know how to
talk.
keep
Yeah, I know
secrets.
they're not gonna. They're gonna tell you
They're gonna tell
everything.
everything is happening. It's going to be all over Facebook, all over Instagram, all over everywhere, and then I will be mad. So I'm going to have to make it out on 11/11. I think. I don't think I'm going to wait later, but definitely by opening weekend, I'll have to get out there so I can see it.
I just go like, nah, nah, nah,
I know, right? He says, please, people, don't spoil it.
for others, right?
Don't steal
spoil
my
it.
joy. Don't steal my joy. Well, I definitely thoroughly, the trailer has just got me so hyped and ready. The music, they were also talking about this one is going to have even more visual impact because it's shot in 4K or 5K or something. So they were just saying that
no, I don't think your heart's gonna be able to take it.
it's going to be. I'm telling y'all,
She almost died in Avatar, y'all.
it's going. And,
3D Avatar.
That's been released. It's out now, and I want to go see it on the big screen. So it's going to be an amazing movie, an amazing event, an amazing homage, I think, to Chadwick Boseman. Because so many people, I think, connected with the movie, not just because of the storyline and everything that was going on and all the great actors who portrayed in the first one, because of who he was and how much he just really embodied, that character of T'Challa. And to have lost him as we did just so prematurely was just tragic for everyone. So I think this will definitely be a fitting tribute to the lasting impact that he's going to have on just movies and entertainment and just our community as a whole. So we're all excited. The music, when you mentioned about everything's going to be all right, I can really contest to the fact that when I first saw the trailer and I'm watching it and I'm listening to the No Woman No Cry, I kind of felt myself getting down a little, not down, but I'm like, wow, this is sad,
Yeah.
and then you hear everything's gonna be all right, and so I was like, yeah, it's gonna be all right, there's gonna be another Black Panther, it's gonna be all right, and that's how we have to live our lives, right? Because we all go through stuff, loss,
Right.
sadness, that taps into one of our other episodes about resilience, and finding what you can find to hold on to so that you have this abiding belief that everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right.
And I think that's what, most people like about the Marvel movies, that despite all the conflict and the drama, it's still all right in the end. It's always going to be all right. They always find a way,
Good overcomes
Every time. Every time.
Every time. And even I was just sitting here thinking, just like with Killmonger, because even though he was the anti-hero bad guy, you still felt for his character because you understood why he was
became
like
that way.
he was.
Exactly.
And it explains not just what happens in the movie, but what we see in our own communities.
He wasn't evil because he wanted money or power or anything like that. He just really wanted to find his roots and live in power with that, and wanted to, he wanted to fight the cause for the down, know,
because he saw what happened when people in power oppressed,
right?
And so
he was fighting.
He saw how the oppressor inflicted the harm on his community, as he said, on our communities, and so that drove him. Now, of course, it drove him to do it in a rather dark way,
not the right way to do it.
It was because of the oppression that he had suffered through loss, and then he observed when he started working for different entities and agencies.
And it's interesting, even after the first movie, that despite that, they did actually take that good part from him, because that was one of the reasons for making the community center. Because instead of being so isolationist in Wakanda, we really should spread our goodwill. We should help people with the vibranium.
That's right.
And
our knowledge.
And our knowledge and all the stuff that we can do. Why keep it to ourselves?
Exactly.
We can do so much more with that. And I wonder when Angela Bassett is talking in front of, it's obviously the UN or some big, international conference, what else, that she's lost everything, what else do I have to give? I kind of wonder what was the discussion before that to get her to that point. Here we are helping you. What else do I have?
I've given everything.
I've given everything. So.
Girl, don't get me started. There's a lot in that little 5 minute clip.
I'm sure I'm missing all the other stuff that he was talking about. Because he talked about, because there's somebody else that broke off too, like the second in command of Dora Milaje. What's her name? Because they showed her in blue, and there's they talked
the
about
trailer.
in the trailer. Yes, so she was Dora Milaje, but she left and formed the Midnight Angels or something like that.
Wow. Okay, then you give me.
So
all
there's a
kinds of
whole separate
information.
group. So I was reading about that. It's
Goodness.
just it's too
Oh
much.
yeah, you gotta send me that because
Yes, it's like
Do your homework, people. Do your homework.
be ready.
Take a notebook. You may need to take notes for this one because
there will be a quiz.
There will be a quiz. There will be a test. There will be a
And don't
test.
forget to stay to the very, very, very
Very
end.
end.
Yes,
Make
don't
sure
we-
the lights come on and
The
truly
credits roll.
the movie is over. Any other thoughts about the trailer? What impacted you most? I know the music for me just did it.
Makes
I mean, what I saw in the trailer after I watched it some other times, I was picking up on things, but it was really the mood of the music and how it kind of took you through what they were trying to portray as well.
And even the way he went from scene to scene, like sometimes it would go black and then come back, and you're like, it kind of makes you just kind of, I've been watching. This is another side, but they were talking about how people do videos and how you do music and songs to keep. There's a whole science behind singing and music and things like that, and how you use your voice and things like that. And so I've been watching some Pentatonics videos, and so they talk about how they do their videos. And so, but just hearing what they were saying about that hit this trailer, how sometimes they go all black before they change the scene because it makes you stop and like take a breath.
Before
So
you
then,
get plunged in.
and then other times he just goes into the next scene. But it's just very, very well done. Very,
very
very,
specific.
very well done.
And
I-
intentional.
I
It's
think
very
that
intentional.
right. I think that's what gets me when I'm listening to it because it's like I'm going, and it's just very emotional. You get that crescendo of the emotion and the music and the scenes, and you're just like by the end you're like cheering for the trailer.
Exactly. It's just like yes,
Yeah.
everything gonna be all right.
Yeah, it's definitely the music and the emotion that gets me. That gets me. So.
Well, we hope you all are excited as we obviously are for this movie, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And we'll be out for the opening weekend in our white in honor and homage to all of our ancestors, not just the fictional ones. We realize that, yes, the movie is fiction, but, I think vibranium is real, but that's another episode. So we hope you all have enjoyed just our few minutes of discussion just to share with you our excitement of this movie and Black Panther, Wakanda, Marvel, learning how to get out and enjoy life as we continue to move, as we go from pandemic to endemic and begin to learn how to just navigate our world in this new normal. Any closing thoughts before we sign off for today?
No.
Always continue to share us with your friends and family. You can find us on our website at ptcobgyn.com, wherever you listen to your pods. So once again, I'm Dr. Miranda Williams.
I'm Dr. Deanna Guthrie.
And I'm Dr. Karen Green. Take good care.